Ever scroll through those airline ticket prices and just wonder how in the world they can change so much? Like seriously, why does the same sheet cost $100 1 minute and then suddenly it's like 3 times that?
Right. It can feel totally random.
It's a total head scratcher.
Mhm.
So today we are going to unpack how airlines like American and Emirates actually decide how much they're going to charge us. We've got some cool market research to dig into.
Yeah, we're going deep.
And we're going to give you the inside scoop on all their tricks, I mean strategies.
Strategies, exactly, for how they maximize their revenue and try to cater to all kinds of different travelers.
Okay, so to get started, what are we actually looking at here? What's the source material for this deep dive?
Well, we've got a pretty insightful report here from Cognitive Market Research,
Okay.
published on January 24th, 2025.
Fresh, very recent.
Yeah, very recent. And it really zones in on the pricing philosophies
Okay.
and revenue management systems.
Ooh, revenue management systems.
Yeah, used by both American Airlines and Emirates.
Okay, so two of the biggest players in the game.
Exactly.
And what's our main mission here? What are we hoping to uncover for our listeners?
So our goal today is to really get to the bottom of why those fares fluctuate so much.
Right.
What technology is behind it all.
Yeah.
And even how airlines use things like customer feedback
Oh, interesting.
to make those pricing decisions. So ultimately, by the end of this deep dive, we want you to understand the complexities of airline ticket pricing. You know, we've all been there.
Yeah, it's like a black box, right?
It is a black box.
It feels very mysterious.
Exactly.
So American Airlines, Emirates, we're talking about two very different airlines.
Oh, very different airlines.
So what does this research tell us about their fundamental approaches to pricing? How do they get started?
Yeah, so one of the most fascinating takeaways from this research is that their pricing philosophies are, well, quite different.
Lay it on us.
All right, so first up, American Airlines. They primarily use something called dynamic pricing.
Okay. Dynamic pricing. I think I've heard that term before, but break it down for us. What does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah, so basically it's like a constantly shifting puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Their ticket prices are constantly being tweaked
In real time?
in real time. They're looking at how many people are searching for flights, how many seats are left,
Wow.
even what their competitors are charging.
So they're watching everyone else too.
Absolutely. They're watching everyone else too. And all of this data goes into an algorithm that spits out the price you see.
It's like they're playing 4D chess with our wallets.
Kinda, yeah.
Right.
And then on top of that, they have this wide range of fare options,
Okay.
from basic economy, which is, bare bones, to first class, the whole shebang.
So they're really trying to cater to like every budget level.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea is to have a price point for everyone, whether you're on a tight budget or you want the royal treatment.
Interesting. So American is all about being super flexible and reactive to the market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Emirates, they take a different approach.
Okay, tell us about Emirates. They're known for being a bit fancier, right?
Oh, yeah, a bit fancier. They lean into something called value-based pricing.
Okay, value-based pricing. What does that mean for Emirates?
So their whole strategy is centered around this idea of exclusivity and luxury, particularly for their premium cabins.
Okay, so they're not just selling a seat, they're selling an experience.
Precisely. And they very intentionally segment their market.
What do you mean by segment their market?
So they have very clear pricing tiers for economy, business, and first class.
Okay.
And they really target those travelers who want a high-end experience and, importantly, are willing to pay for it.
So they're not trying to be the cheapest option, they're all about the value proposition.
Exactly. They're saying, hey, you're paying a premium, but you're getting a premium experience.
Makes sense. So we've got American, the dynamic chameleon, and Emirates, the luxurious hawk.
I like those analogies.
But even with these completely different philosophies, are there any common threads in how they actually execute their pricing?
Yeah, there are some interesting similarities. So when you zoom out a bit, both airlines rely heavily on demand forecasting tools.
Demand forecasting, so they're trying to predict the future.
They're trying to predict the future, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they use these tools to anticipate those peak travel periods, like holidays, school breaks.
Makes sense.
And then they adjust their prices proactively to maximize revenue when they know everyone wants to fly.
Huh.
You'll also see both airlines using things like limited time promotions, flash sales,
Oh, yeah, those are always tempting.
right, and loyalty discounts for frequent flyers.
Okay.
And they'll tailor offers to specific routes, recognizing that, say, a flight from New York to London is going to have a different price dynamic than a flight between two smaller regional airports.
So even though they're starting with different mindsets, they both have this whole arsenal of techniques to make sure they're maximizing their revenue.
Exactly.
So for our listeners, the big takeaway here is that airline ticket prices are not random.
No, not at all.
There's a whole lot of strategy going on behind the scenes, and it's very much tied to each airline's brand identity and their target audience.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get geeky for a minute and talk about the technology that makes all this possible.
Oh, yeah, let's get geeky.
So what kind of tech are these airlines using to manage their pricing and revenue?
So both airlines are heavily invested in some pretty sophisticated technology.
Okay.
For American Airlines, the research highlights their use of advanced revenue optimization platforms.
Okay.
And these platforms do more than just track bookings. They actually run complex algorithms to try and predict how changes in price are going to affect demand.
It's like a giant, constantly evolving equation
Exactly. They're constantly crunching numbers to find that perfect balance.
to find that sweet spot.
To find that sweet spot, yeah. Now, Emirates also uses cutting-edge systems,
Okay.
but their emphasis is really on artificial intelligence and machine learning.
AI and machine learning, that sounds pretty futuristic.
It is,
Right.
and it allows them to analyze massive, massive data sets.
Like what kind of data sets? Give us some examples.
We're talking historical booking data,
Okay.
customer preferences,
Uh-huh.
global events, even competitor pricing moves.
Wow.
And all of this helps them to make really precise forecasts and highly targeted pricing decisions.
So it's not just about the number of seats left on a flight, it's about understanding all these other factors that could influence demand.
Exactly. So, for example, their AI might notice that there's a particular spike in searches for early morning flights on Tuesdays in a specific region.
Interesting.
And then they can adjust prices accordingly.
So they're spotting trends that we might not even be aware of.
Absolutely.
The research also mentioned something about Emirates using AI for personalized pricing. That sounds a little creepy.
It does, a little bit. So imagine you're browsing for a flight
Uh-huh.
that you've searched for before. The AI might recognize your interest and offer you a slightly different price based on your past behavior. Or, and this is where it gets a little unsettling,
Yeah, get unsettled.
your perceived willingness to pay.
Ooh, that makes you think about all the data they're collecting on us.
It does. It raises some really interesting questions about the future of, personalized commerce.
Yeah, the ethics of all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, beyond AI, the research also pointed out that both airlines rely heavily on customer relationship management tools, CRM tools.
Okay, CRM, I've heard of that.
So these systems help airlines build a really deep understanding of their passengers,
Okay.
tracking their travel history, their preferences, their interactions with the airlines.
It's all about getting to know us better.
It is. And all of that helps them tailor their offers and provide, hopefully, better customer service.
So whether it's American's dynamic algorithms or Emirates' AI insights, it's clear that technology is the driving force behind modern airline revenue management.
It absolutely is.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the human element.
Okay.
Because we're not just data points, right? We're actual humans.
Right.
So how does customer feedback, good or bad, play into these pricing strategies?
Well, you might be surprised to hear that customer feedback actually plays a significant role.
Really?
Yeah. So the research showed that American Airlines really digs into data from customer surveys,
Okay.
their advantage loyalty program interactions,
Uh-huh.
and even social media sentiment.
Wow, they're listening.
They are listening. And they use all of that to try and identify pain points and areas where they can improve, not just their service, but also how they price things.
Can you give us a real-world example of how that feedback actually translates into a pricing change?
Absolutely. So the research specifically mentioned how American evolved their fare options.
Okay.
Initially, a lot of customers were frustrated with these super restrictive, non-refundable tickets.
Yeah, those can be a nightmare.
Exactly. So in response, American introduced a wider range of fare classes, including options that allow for more flexibility with refunds and baggage allowances.
Okay.
Of course, those come at a slightly higher price, but it gives people more choices.
So people were basically saying, hey, we value flexibility and we're willing to pay a bit more for it.
Yeah, and American listened and adapted their pricing structure to meet that demand.
That makes sense. It's all about giving customers what they want, what they value. Now, how does Emirates, with their focus on that premium market, incorporate feedback into their pricing decisions?
So for Emirates, maintaining that premium brand image is crucial.
Right.
And they understand that customer feedback is really important for making sure their high prices align with the high level of service they're aiming to deliver.
They want to make sure they're actually delivering on that promise.
Exactly. So they're constantly gathering insights on the entire passenger experience,
Okay.
from the comfort of the seats to the quality of in-flight amenities to how efficient their lounge services are.
So they're paying attention to every detail.
Every detail. And they use that feedback to refine their pricing tiers
Hmm.
for business and first-class travelers,
Okay.
making sure that the price tag really reflects the value that people are getting.
So whether you're going for mass appeal or a more niche premium market, listening to your customers is key for success in the airline industry.
Absolutely.
Now let's move beyond just setting the initial ticket price.
Okay.
What other strategies do American and Emirates use to really squeeze out every bit of revenue?
So American Airlines places a big emphasis on what they call network optimization.
Network optimization, break that down for us.
So it's all about strategically designing their routes and flight schedules to match passenger demand.
Okay.
A key tactic for them is the hub and spoke model.
Hub and spoke.
Yeah, so this is where they route flights through major hub airports.
Right, I've heard of that.
It's all about creating efficient connections to get as many people as possible where they need to go.
So they're making sure their planes are as full as possible, as often as possible.
Exactly. And they also use something called ancillary revenue strategies.
Ancillary revenue. Okay, what's that?
So that's all the extra fees for things like checked bags, seat selection, priority boarding, Wi-Fi.
Okay, yeah, those little add-ons can really add up.
They do.
Yeah.
And even though those fees might seem small individually, they actually contribute a huge chunk of the airline's overall revenue.
I've definitely felt that pain when debating whether to pay for extra leg room.
We've all been there.
So American is all about efficiency and those extra revenue streams. How about Emirates? What are their tactics?
So Emirates, while also aiming for full flights, they really focus on maximizing revenue from their premium cabins.
Right, because that's their bread and butter.
Yes. They work hard to keep their economy fares competitive in the global market, but they really drive a lot of revenue through those business and first-class offerings.
Makes sense.
They also use something called value-based bundling.
Value-based bundling. Okay, what's that all about?
So this is where they offer packages that combine the airfare with premium perks, like lounge access, chauffeur service, or in-flight upgrades.
Okay.
It's all about making those high-end experiences more appealing and enticing people to spend a bit more.
So they're creating these really tempting packages to kind of upsell their customers.
Exactly.
The research also talked about their partnerships with tourism boards and travel agencies.
Right, so these partnerships help them promote their flights as part of broader travel packages.
Okay.
And that way, they capture a bigger share of the traveler's overall spending.
Smart. So both airlines are using these sophisticated strategies to generate revenue at multiple points during the customer journey.
Absolutely.
And the research mentioned that loyalty programs are another key tactic they both use.
Oh, yeah, loyalty programs are huge. So things like American's Advantage program and Emirates Skywards.
Right, the points and miles game.
Exactly. And those programs incentivize repeat travel by giving frequent flyers all kinds of perks, like points, miles, and exclusive benefits.
It's all about building that brand loyalty.
It is.
So for our listeners, this is a good reminder to be aware of those ancillary charges and those bundled options.
Yeah, good point.
Because they can really make a difference in the overall cost of your trip.
Absolutely.
Okay, so these airlines have all these amazing strategies, these incredible technologies.
Right.
But the research also hinted that they still face some challenges in managing pricing and revenue.
They do, definitely. Despite all the sophistication, they're operating in a global market that's constantly changing.
Right, it's a very unpredictable industry.
It is. So for American Airlines, one of their big challenges is the intense competition in the domestic U.S. market.
Okay.
There are a lot of airlines vying for those passengers.
Right.
So they have to be really, really agile and constantly adjust their pricing to stay competitive, especially on those popular routes.
So they can't afford to rest on their laurels.
No, not at all. And then you've got things like economic fluctuations and the always unpredictable cost of jet fuel.
Yeah, fuel prices are a wild card
Oh, yeah, they can really throw a wrench in the works.
and make it hard to maintain any kind of consistent pricing model.
Exactly.
What about the unique challenges that Emirates faces in their global market?
So Emirates operates in a really diverse international landscape,
Uh-huh.
which presents its own set of hurdles. They have to balance their premium pricing strategy with overall global market competitiveness.
That's a tough act to pull off.
It is. And they're dealing with all sorts of different economic conditions,
Okay.
currency fluctuations
Yeah.
across all the regions they serve.
Wow, that's a lot to juggle.
It is. And then you've got the growing global focus on sustainable aviation.
Right, that's becoming more and more important.
Absolutely. And the potential for increased operational costs associated with those greener technologies.
Okay.
That could also influence their pricing in the future.
So they're not just responding to market forces, they're having to anticipate these larger global trends.
They are.
And that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
It does.
So for our listeners, the takeaway here is that the price you see on your ticket is not just about supply and demand for that specific flight.
Right.
It's a reflection of all these much broader factors, these internal strategies, these external market forces.
It's exactly.
Okay, last but not least, how are American and Emirates working to make sure they stay profitable over the long term while also keeping their customers happy?
Well, the research indicates that both airlines understand that long-term profitability and customer satisfaction go hand in hand.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy customers are more likely to come back.
Exactly. So how is American approaching this balancing act?
Well, they see their Advantage loyalty program as a really important tool
Okay.
for rewarding those frequent flyers and fostering that brand loyalty.
Keep them coming back for more.
Exactly. They're also investing in technology to make travel more seamless and enjoyable.
Okay.
Things like more user-friendly mobile apps, AI-powered customer support.
So they're trying to make the whole travel experience less of a headache.
They are.
And hopefully that leads to more satisfied customers.
Exactly.
What about Emirates? How are they thinking about long-term profitability and customer satisfaction?
So Emirates is doubling down on the passenger experience, especially investing in those premium services, state-of-the-art amenities, both in the air and on the ground.
Keeping that luxury vibe going.
Absolutely. They also invest heavily in technology to make sure they're meeting the expectations of modern travelers.
Okay.
So the overarching theme here is that both airlines are taking a customer-centric approach and adapting to market trends to ensure their long-term success.
So they're not just trying to make a quick buck, they're trying to build those lasting relationships with their passengers.
Exactly.
It's really fascinating to see how much thought and strategy goes into something as seemingly simple as an airline ticket price.
It really is.
Before we wrap up, was there any surprising takeaway from this research that really highlights how effective these revenue management strategies can be?
Yeah, there was one that really jumped out at me. The research mentioned a 2023 industry report that found that airlines with really strong revenue management systems, like American and Emirates,
Okay.
they achieved an average of a 15% increase in ancillary revenue growth.
Wow, 15%, that's huge.
Yeah, it is.
So all those little extra fees for bags and seats and Wi-Fi,
Right.
they can add up to a significant boost in profitability.
They absolutely do. And that, of course, allows the airlines to invest back into their operations.
Hopefully leading to better service and better technology for everyone.
Exactly.
So there you have it, folks. From this deep dive, you can see that airline pricing is a really complex dance
It is?
involving demand prediction, technology, customer feedback, and navigating a very competitive global landscape.
And it's a dance that's always evolving.
It is. Now, as you ponder all these intricate pricing strategies, what aspect of airline pricing would you like to understand better? Perhaps the future impact of sustainable aviation initiatives on ticket prices.
Or the ethical considerations around personalized pricing.
So many fascinating questions.
Yeah.
It's clear that there's always more to uncover in this ever-changing world of air travel.